guys, and welcome back to Power Sports. I'm your host, Frank, and today we're going to be discussing the NBA's greatest steals and busts of the 2010s. First up, we have Paul George, drafted in 2010, 10th overall by the Indiana Pacers. He was there for a few years, had good success, but limited playoff success. That ultimately led to him being traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Victor Oladipo, Domantas Sabonis, and a couple of picks. Both of those pieces ended up being all-stars, and I would say the Thunder lost this trade. Then, after being with the Thunder for a year, popping off and having a career year, making the All Star game, finishing fourth or fifth in MVP voting, and ultimately just proving his dominance because he's a three-level scorer, he's a good defender, and he's made the All Star games 5 times. All right, then he was traded to the Los Angeles Clippers this season, last offseason, sorry, and he was expected to team up with Kawhi and become a contender, and then they blew a 3-1 lead in the second round. All right. Next up, we have Nikola Jokic, who faced Paul George in these playoffs and ended up uh, coming back from a 3-1 deficit. All right. He was drafted in 2014, 41st overall by the Denver Nuggets as a center. Now, he's a top three center in the league now. He does it all. He can score, he can grab rebounds, and he can dish out the ball, which I just love to watch the Joker. He's an amazing player, and honestly, he's one of a kind in my opinion. Okay, next we have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was drafted in 2013, 15th overall by the Milwaukee Bucks. He was seen as a raw prospect who had potential but was ultimately too skinny with his frame. Now you see him on Instagram and he's a sculpted beast, back-to-back MVPs, and he won Defensive Player of the Year this year. Now this guy has a very bright future. He can pass when he needs to. He can rebound, and while he mostly scores, while he scores inside the paint and he has a decent mid-range shot, if he learns to shoot, this man will be lethal. Mark my words. All right, next up we have Kawhi Leonard, who's a 2011 draft pick, 15th overall by actually the Indiana Pacers. You may not have known that because on draft night he was traded to the Spurs because, Greg Popovich has an absolute eye for gems. Anyway, he's a two times Finals MVP and Finals champ, Defensive Player of the Year, and honestly, that Spurs staff did something amazing with Kawhi Leonard, and he's one of my favorite players to watch as well. I just love watching the Claw. All right, next up, we have Donovan Mitchell, drafted in 2017, 13th overall by the Utah Jazz. But that pick was actually the Denver Nuggets. They could have had Mitchell and Jokic. Wow, that would have been crazy. He's already made the All Star game 2 times, was robbed of the Rookie of the Year, and he's a three-level scorer. He's made the playoffs in each of his years in the NBA so far, and him and Gobert is a great tandem. All right, now into our honorable mentions for the steals. First up, we have Draymond Green, a second round pick in 2012 by the Golden State Warriors. He may not stuff the stat sheet, but he's a very balanced player. He can score 10 points a night. He can score 12 points a night, sorry, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and he can provide you good defense. He's a gritty, physical player, and that's one of the things I love about Draymond. He may not be the prettiest player, he may not have the finesse that other players have, but he's definitely gritty, hardworking, and ultimately that's what led to his success. And that's why he's a 3-time NBA champion. Next up, we have Devin Booker, who's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. He is not a 3-time NBA champ by any stretch of the imagination. He's never made the playoffs, actually. Closest he got was the bubble, where he went 8-0 and popped off. Anyway, he was drafted in 2015, 13th overall by the Phoenix Suns, and that was a great spot for him to go, especially considering some of the players drafted above him. He's lethal from three, and the man scored 71 points in his rookie year against the Celtics, who have always been a solid team. Alright, now we're moving on to the bus. First up, we have Anthony Bennett, one of the greatest busts of all time, and definitely the greatest bust of this decade. He was drafted in 2013, first overall by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I definitely know they regret that pick, especially looking at some of the guys who were available. Alright, he was out of the league by 2017, and the draft was poor overall, the 2013 draft, but there were some good players out of it. Alright, next up we have Dragon Bender, who was a 2016 fourth overall pick, and he was supposed to be the next KP, and, well, they got Dollar Tree KP, to be honest. He's shot over 35% from three his whole career, but he only averages 6 points and 4 rebounds, which is horrible, especially with that 6'11" frame. Okay, next up we have Jalil Okafor, who was a 2015 first overall pick, but couldn't adjust to the modern game. He was a traditional center who's just bullies people in the paint, can grab boards, but after NBA teams realized that, they never gave him a a starting role. So, he was a part of the process, drafted by the Sixers, obviously, but he didn't pan out for them. But they do have franchise center now and Joel Embiid. Okay, next up we have MKG, aka Michael K. Gilchrist, drafted second overall in 2012, and also like Okafor, he couldn't adjust to the modern game. He didn't pan out, and honestly, when he was drafted, some scouts really knew that he had a little upside, and he wasn't going to get much better than he already was. But a solid starter is never something to complain about. All right, and last but not least, we have Evan Turner, who was a 2010 second overall pick. But right now, he's a rotational piece with Portland, who it was a contender and still made the playoffs this year before they lost in five to the Lakers. And they can definitely still be a contender in this league as long as they bounce back next year. But he definitely was not worth the second overall pick, but is still a solid player. All right, and our honorable mentions are John Vesely, who you've probably never even heard of because he was drafted sixth overall in 2010, and he only averaged 2 points, in the NBA as a top 7 pick. And last but not least, we have Dante Exum, who he's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but he was drafted fifth overall, and he was definitely not worth the pick. But I think he can be a sixth to eighth man on a contender. I was very disappointed that a few teams didn't pick him up. That could have used him more than the team he's on currently. All right, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to comment down below and let me know what I should do next, or if you just liked the video and would like to give me some pointers. I don't know. But thanks for watching. Subscribe, and catch you later.